Right now, Hurricane Adalia is making landfall on the Gulf Coast of Florida. There are massive storm surges, crazy videos of lightning. We are seeing massive 125-mile-an-hour winds, tornadoes, homes without power. And so I hope that we'll start off this video with just a basic weather update. I know, very, very simple, and I'm not a weatherman, but I really hope everybody is going to be safe, and going through this story may provide you with some key information about your loved ones or what's going on, which can benefit you. Of course, I want to stress there are major political questions arising due to what's going on with the hurricane in Florida, related to climate change, Ron DeSantis' leadership, the corporate press. And I think there's a lot we should talk about, especially as it pertains to the arguments from the left about climate change, how it's impacting wildfires around this country, storms, droughts, and Hawaii, because there are interesting questions. But I think first, the big breaking news is what's going on in Florida with this hurricane. And as I stressed, if even a little bit of this information, me using this platform to inform you about what's going on could help somebody, let's do this first. Here's the story from the Daily Mail. Adalia makes landfall. Eye wall of monster Category 3 hurricane batters Florida coastline with 125-mile-an-hour winds ahead of 16-foot storm surges and tornadoes as homes are flooded and over 100,000 are without power. Now, I do believe there's been an update that Florida has already restored power to many of these who have lost it due to these winds. It's important to understand that it is not necessarily the storm itself making landfall which causes the problems. In fact, typically, it is before the hurricane makes landfall. What happens is, you can see here, just south of Tallahassee, Idalia is moving up into making landfall. The storm surges in red. The wind is pushing the water up, causing massive flooding. And it is very interesting that this is not a well-known fact. You think it should be. I learned this, 15 or so years ago when I first experienced my first hurricane. And many people have known this throughout history for thousands of years. The real issue with hurricanes, or one of the bigger issues, is that the high winds create a storm surge, pushing the surface of the water up, causing it to flood the coastal areas. That is the big issue. And so we've got a lot of people that will come out now and they'll say, oh, I'm looking at these storms. I'm looking at what's going on in Los Angeles. We had that tropical storm hit the LA area. And many people are posting videos saying it's just light drizzle. Who cares? Not realizing that often with hurricanes, it is the massive flooding, which LA did see. So we can see right here, Adalia is making landfall. And so this is what you need to be concerned about, is flooding. Now, these are extremely high winds at 125 miles an hour, and there are going to be tornadoes. There's going to be a lot of damage. So please, everybody, take precautions. For a while, I was doing these shout outs for safeandreadymeals.com. It's kind of paradoxical for me to say that and then mention that I don't actually have anything pulled up. But I do want to just stress the point. It's always important to have some kind of emergency provisions, water, food, generator of some sort, especially if you're in areas like Florida where if you're in a floodplain or if you're in an area that's prone to getting hit by hurricanes. Just consider this, man. It's not because the world's ending. You get these supplies because sometimes it rains, and sometimes the rain causes floods. The roads could get knocked out, power could be out, and you need to consider, what are your emergency options? The more options you have, the more likely you are to survive. And we desperately need you and want you to survive. So in these circumstances, this is expected to pass. I think they have a map here of the projected path. This storm is going to pass. It should be gone within a day or two. Right now, we're looking at Wednesday into Monday, and it will pass through Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, with a moderate impact on the North Carolina coast before making its way back into the Atlantic and then trailing off. That being said, just consider, even if it's a day, even if it's one storm, what is the aftermath? A lot of people, they could lose their homes. And what is your emergency plan? So I hope everybody that was ordered to evacuate does take that seriously. I do think the most important thing, to get into a bit of the politics, no one should be forced to evacuate. But in my opinion, when it comes to this stuff, if they tell you a hurricane is coming, 125-mile-an-hour winds, we hereby issue the evacuation order. But if you stay, right? I don't like the idea that they go and arrest people and they remove them. No, it just means that if the disaster hits, we're not coming to rescue you. That's your choice. I think that's how it should be. And I hope people take it seriously and do get out. Derek Van Dam says surge continues to pile into the Tampa Bay region, threatening homes nearest the coast. Lights are flickering around us. So let me, there's a video right here. You can see this photo. These storm surges are getting very high, and this is what you need to be worried about. In this video we have from St. Pete Police, rescued one person this morning from the flooding in the Twin City Mobile Park. Take a look at this clip. You can see the water looks to be maybe 2.5 feet right here. And you don't want to get stuck in this stuff. What you need to understand about this flooding, a lot of people see these videos and think it's funny and they'll go out and they'll run around in the flood waters because it's just water, right? It's just, you're going swimming. No. Look, take the warnings from police seriously. I'd ultimately think it is your responsibility and your choice. But what happens with these flood waters is they're carrying debris. There could be needles, broken glass, rocks. The water flow could be moving quickly. It could pick up quickly. And you could go in this water thinking everything's fine. And then a rock slams into your leg. You fall down and then you're gone. We saw in Los Angeles, these people were jogging next to these raging flood waters. I'm sorry, man, you slip one time in this rain and you are dead. So you should not be doing this, especially when you see the water rushing over the path they're jogging on and they hop with 1 foot over it. That is like the worst way. You should not be doing this, man. So take a look at this peak storm surge forecast we have. It looks like 12 to 16 feet right here on the Gulf Coast of Florida. And it's going to be between 1 and 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 8, up until this Wakulla, Jefferson County. It gets pretty serious to, it looks like Wakulla, Jefferson County to Yankeetown. They're predicting 12 to 16 feet surges. Don't know if it's actually going to get that high, but please take that seriously, man. Politics can be set aside for the time being. I just want y'all to be safe. This is the most important thing, that, people don't get washed away by this. I'm hearing really good things about the response from Ron DeSantis. I don't care about the politicking, because people are, of course, politicking. We can set that stuff aside. Right now, I'm hearing a lot of praise for DeSantis' rapid response. I don't think he, as the individual, is the most responsible for what can and should be done, but he plays a huge role in the response as the executive leader of the state. So I'm glad to hear that there's some compliments coming his way for the immediate response. And it's an excellent opportunity for him, for Ron, to show executive leadership, to outshine and shutter the terrible social campaign that his campaign has been waging. Yeah, sorry, it's just a fact. Again, glad to see that people are praising him. Power's being restored in some of these areas. Take this stuff seriously. There are questions. Now, look at these photos. These are amazing. Look at this. A video shows the rare St. Elmo fire weather phenomenon on Tuesday in Florida as the state embraces for Adalia. Crazy video. Someone was in a plane. You see these lightning strikes. Put politics aside for now and, just pay attention to what's going on. If they tell you to evacuate, you probably should, man. I'm not your boss. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but, I just don't want anybody to get hurt. We want to minimize the amount of people who lose their lives here. But now let's get into the politics of the matter. All right, and the politics of the matter is climate change. Take a look at this from the Daily Caller. I mean this with due respect. Vivek Ramaswamy calls out MSNBC host for linking climate change to major hurricane. They could not wait. People are currently in the path of destruction, and they could not wait to say the hurricane is climate change. My friends, this area of the country has been slammed by hurricanes for a very, very long time. Climate change is not, the weather is not climate change. But of course, Vivek Ramaswamy makes a very, very good point in pushing back on this. I just want to say, all right, nobody's perfect. I tried to give as much airtime as possible to the storm and information about the storm before getting into the disgusting political realm, because I do think safety matters. But now it is time for all of us to jump into the mud with the pigs and roll around with the dogs and the fleas and talk about the absurdity of the modern condition. Daily Caller says, Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy called out MSNBC host Andrea Mitchell Tuesday for linking a hurricane approaching Florida to climate change. Hurricane Adalia is nearing the west coast of Florida, prompting evacuation orders in multiple Florida counties. A second hurricane, Franklin, is on the coast of the Carolinas and could threaten most of the East Coast. Hopefully, when we're looking at Franklin, I wonder if they have a link. It's looking like it may stop and then move back out to the Atlantic. We're hoping this one does not make contact. I think right. So let's pay attention to this. I don't think they have any of the data on Franklin. So let's get back into the political realm. Vivek Ramaswamy. So here's where the quote. You said more people are dying from bad climate change policies than of climate change. Andrea Mitchell said, according to a UN agency, extreme weather events compounded by climate change caused the death of 2 million people between 1970 and 2021. Can you offer a shred of evidence that more than 2 million people died from converting to clean energy? Oh, man, what a silly, ridiculous thing to say. I can offer you this, ma'am. Between the UN agency, according to your select source, right? That's always the problem with this. I've cherry picked this one organization that says climate change, extreme weather events killed people. Therefore, climate change. Okay, no. Hold on. Whether or not extreme weather events are climate change, now that's a tough question. Of course, the media just keeps saying, oh, yes, it is. Yeah, well, you have countervailing, you have people coming out saying quite the opposite. You have a scientist recently who said, no, this is not correct. And it's a hard point to drive home. But there's a lot of leaps there. Sorry. Extreme weather events killed people. Climate change caused extreme weather events. Therefore, climate change kills people. Can you prove that clean energy policies kill people? If we are to get off fossil fuels, yes, very, very simply. What we're seeing right now, actually, you know what? Let me just throw it to Vivek Ramaswamy. He nails it. The dude nails it. Quote, I can offer clear evidence the number of climate-related deaths is down by 98% over the last century. The number of people who died of hurricanes, tornadoes, heat waves, and other weather-related events in 1920, for every 100 that died then, 2 died today. And the reason why is more plentiful, abundant access to fossil fuels and technology powered by fossil fuels, Ramaswamy said. I can also tell today, this is a hard fact, none of this is disputed. 8 times as many people die of cold temperatures than die of warm ones, obviously. But he hits the nail on the head. Perhaps you will say that climate change causes these weather events and 1,000 people died. And then the question arises. How many people die today compared to 100 years ago? More people died in storms. Okay. So even if your argument is that man-made climate change is driving these weather events, during these weather events, substantially less people die. That's a problem for your argument. Because now the question is, who cares if there are extreme weather events if 98% less people die? Obviously, we don't want extreme weather events. But Vivek continues. They're going to say a 2011 study from the Reason Foundation found that aggregate mortality attributed to all extreme weather events globally has declined by more than 90% since the 1920s. Quote, the right answer to all temperature-related deaths is more plentiful, abundant access to fossil fuels. The Earth is covered by more green surface area today than it was half a century ago because carbon dioxide is plant food, and carbon dioxide as a percentage of the atmosphere is still at a relative low. Mitchell pressed Ramaswamy, citing comments from the mayor of St. Petersburg. Quote, I mean this with due respect. And we got to say this. She said that a hurricane is about to hit Florida and then tried to move on. And Vivek was like, nah. I mean this with due respect. If someone on the other side were an uneducated person from Arkansas who didn't go to college and offered one weather event as an anecdote to support global climate change, you would laugh them off the stage as a rube for saying they don't follow data. The same shoe has to fit the other foot. Follow the actual data. Full stop. Let me articulate this for you, good sir Vivek Ramaswamy, in a way I think that, in my view, hits the nail on the head slightly better. No, I think Vivek is completely right. But what I think needs to be added to this is, when there's a blizzard, what do we hear? It's very cold. There's a blizzard. And then the conservatives and the Republicans come out and say, where's your climate change? We've got an Arctic, polar sphere swirl vortex or whatever slamming this country. It's never been colder. And you're telling us global warming? And the left goes, you clearly don't understand what climate change means. Then you get a hurricane and they're like, see, climate change. Yo, friends, you don't get to point to a single weather event and be like, this proves global warming, and then complain when the right points to a single weather event and be like, this disproves global warming. It don't work that way. Vivek is correct. If a conservative religious person comes out and says, this extremely cold weather, and we had record low temperatures. This is crazy. A month or so ago, I noticed an extremely warm winter. Right. We had almost no snow out here. And people were bummed by it, whatever. Then, this past month, I've got this little weather tracking app on my desktop, and it says record low several times in 1 week because it was like 68 degrees in the summer. It was low temperatures. And then people on the right will say, where's your global warming? It's cold out right now. In fact, we had an unusually cold burst in the summer, which caused problems for many people in their crops out here. People were complaining. I think it had a problem with something happened with grapes or something like that. I have no idea. And then when the right comes out and says, where's your narrative now? They just go, that actually proves our narrative. No matter what it is, they will say it proves their narrative. You can't do that. By all means, go to the scientists, ask them what they think. Here's the main problem with all of this. You've got people like Al Gore coming out 20 or whatever years ago being like, we're not going to have polar ice caps in 10 years. That didn't happen. You got Greta Thunberg being like, we only have 3 years left. And then 3 years later, it's like, yo, there's still ice up there. Nothing's changing. So when people say, like Vivek Ramaswamy says, that he believes there is climate change happening on this planet because climate changes all the time, but he does not think humans are causing it, what do they get? What does he get? Smeared. And you know what? Let's start to the political. It was, I believe, the DeSantis Never Back Down or whatever, DeSantis PAC, that tried to lie in the most pathetic way about Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek said on the debate stage, the GOP debates, he said, the climate change agenda is a hoax. They then play another clip where he's like, I'm not saying that climate change isn't happening. I'm saying that the policies they're putting forward, their carbon agenda and all of that is not real. And then he says, hey, like we're seeing that, weathers are rising. We're seeing weather patterns, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, here's what Vivek said on stage. Here's what he said before. And you know what? We're not stupid. People on Twitter immediately noticed. They were like, yo, those two clips complement each other. Vivek said the climate change agenda is a hoax, but we are seeing climate change. Putting those two quotes together doesn't change anything. I'll tell you what I find most fascinating about this. The New York Times says chaos erupts when Republican candidates are asked if they believe in climate change. Vivek was booed by this? Oh, it's just so absolutely silly what's currently going on. Here we go. Here's their narrative. In a storied river, fish are dying in droves as as climate change scorches Canada. That's right. Now, here's what I love. There are a lot of storms. There's heat waves. There's polar vortex, whatever. And right now we're dealing with a lot of fires. And there are people claiming that all the fires are arsonists. And then when I say, no, guys, calm down. There was a clearly trackable weather pattern over Canada on near the East Coast with a lightning storm. And then you got a bunch of fires after the fact. So my opinion is the fires that we're seeing, they are not overwhelmingly caused by arsonists. Then what happens is stories have come out, past, present, and future, of arsonists. And people are like, we know they're arsonists. Tim is wrong. Why won't he admit it? It's like, dude, we know there are arsonists. I did like this whole video. I don't know what you want to call it. I did several videos. There you go. When far left extremists were setting fires in the Pacific Northwest. And the media lied and said it wasn't happening. And I'm like, here are the videos of them doing it. I'm not saying every single fire. This is what I can't stand about the political world. You have far left extremists and crackpots setting fires. We have videos of them doing it. But I don't believe that all of the fires are being caused by them. Just some. We catch them. They get arrested. It's reported in the press. We know it's happening. But in the political world, you get the corporate press saying, no, they're not doing it at all. No one's doing it. And then you get some people, the more conspiracy-minded individuals, saying all of these fires are being caused by arsonists. And then my favorite, the directed energy weapons. I certainly think it's fair to entertain the idea that directed energy weapons can cause fires. It's, what is it, like, I don't know. It's probably way too far for an actual laser to cause damage. But we did see that video of the Chinese weather scanning satellite, or whatever they called it, whatever that really is. I don't know if they have the capability of firing lasers from a great distance, start a fire in that capacity, unless they like hyper-focused like 1,000 lasers or something. No, I think the reality is storms cause lightning. Lightning strikes, dry areas burn, forest mismanagement results in massive fires, and then we get slammed by all the smoke. There currently are a decent amount of fires. I think a lot of people are overreacting to it, but let's just remain calm. Let's call out the arsonists when they're arsonists, and there are many. but I don't believe the overwhelming amount of the fires that we're seeing is caused by arsonists. And I really do think what we are seeing with the climate change agenda, I very much agree with Vivek Ramaswamy. Not 100%. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I can only tell you that when Barack Obama is buying waterfront property in Martha's Vineyard, that according to all the climate change alarmists, his property will be flooded substantially and maybe even wiped out soon because of rising waters. You got to wonder what he really thinks. When you take a look at every financial institution with smiles on their faces investing in beachfront property in Florida, 30-year mortgages? Are you kidding me? You're saying that Florida is sinking and the water and it's flooding, and thus, climate change is going to destroy the coastline? But you are offering 30-year mortgages? Now, I will stress that does lend itself to the idea they're lying for political power. I will also stress, if you pay attention to the 2008, mortgage-backed securities and subprime mortgage fiasco and the economic crisis, it's also possible that these banks, there's a viral video where a guy's like, if this was real, banks would be required to give you a warning on every prospectus saying like your property will be submerged and uninhabitable in 30 years. And they don't do that. Yeah, sorry. Forgive me if I don't believe these people actually care about long-term investment. The guys selling these mortgages, the guys doing these deals are thinking, I'll get a bonus right now if I make this deal. They don't care what happens in 20 or 30 years, and the bank ain't paying attention, very much like 2008. So I don't think that necessarily disproves everything, but I think it does show that the financial institutions, well, hey, look, man, let's put it this way. If the climate change stuff is real, a lot of people are going to get wealthy when they short coastal property, when they short stocks, mortgages, bonds, whatever, tied to like all real estate. The majority of people in this country live on the coasts. And if the water is going to rise, all their property is getting wiped out. So you figure that one out. I don't know. For the time being, let me say, politics, man, it's usually everything. Everybody wants political power, and they'll try and figure out exactly what they have to do to get it. So what do? Just watch out for this stuff. Pay attention and focus on you, your family, your friends, and what you need to do to be prepared for when a storm comes. Because I tell you this right now, to the people that are in the Gulf area, the Gulf coast of Florida, you know what doesn't matter? These political debates. I'm sure as they're sitting in their house watching the flood waters come and saying, okay, let's get out of here, worrying about where they're going to go, what water they're going to be able to drink, and what food they have, the last thing they care about is whether or not your political debate is going to result in policy changes. For the time being, let's focus on rescue efforts, saving human lives. And so there's your nice little weather story sandwich. We'll start with the importance of what's going on there, hoping everybody is safe, complain about politics, and wrap up with make sure when it comes to these weather events, you're paying attention, ignore the bickering, ignore the politics, whatever. All that matters right now is that you guys stay safe. I got a lot of friends down there. We've got a lot of infrastructure personally because we utilize a lot of infrastructure built out of Florida. I hope everybody is prepared for this because what happens down there to you matters to the rest of us. We care about you. We don't want you to get hurt. We love Florida. We love the Florida stories. Ron DeSantis has done a really great job in Florida as governor. I'm hearing really great things about his response. So I'm glad that he's taking care of these things. And I think it's time. Look, man, right now is not the time for people to be coming out and ragging on DeSantis because they want to earn political points. Trump's the clear front runner. Let's let Ron DeSantis do his job, the one that he needs to be doing, and make sure the first responders are going to save as many lives as possible. And then after the fact, we can say, and take the high road. I hope he does a good job. We'll see where we end up at the end of this. But I look forward to saying thank you, Ron DeSantis, after this is all said and done, for the response that resulted in lives saved. And then we can get back to what we think about his campaign and moving forward. We can separate the politics from the job that needs to be done. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.